you are mute, maybe we can, in the meantime, we can ask someone, do you hear us?
Yes, we can.
You can, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Hello. Hi. Okay. We're going to start.
Yeah.
Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Fabrizio.
We have a joint practice based in New York called Distributed Architecture. We're both very happy to be in Seoul and to be a part of the summer program. So Seoul is both a dizzyingly fast and contemplatively slow. It's a city full of high-speed, high-density new buildings, as well as a city with pockets of slowness, sparseness, and deep history. And this dual condition of extremely fast and slow paces in Seoul makes it a rich territory to investigate the relationship between Seoulites' conception of time and speed, what we call Seoul's chronotype, and its built environments. As a 24-hour city running on night shopping, 찜질방, 노래방, PC방, pocha, and night taxis, and a city that has industrialized at lightning speed, 빨리, or quickly, has been the modus operandi for Seoulites for decades. And the super fast temporality of Seoul impacts its built environment, with building interiors and signage changing as soon as they've been constructed. And yet moments of slowness also exist. Fragments of the Joseon-era palaces and city walls provide momentary relief, reminding Seoulites of a slower way of life. Han River and the Four Mountains also play an important role, offering paths for meditative walks.
According to CNN's documentary Nomad, slowness and time in nature are increasingly sought after by the young Seoulites. The Mang phenomenon, which means emptying your mind while staring at something, it is only one example of why such slowness might be in dire need. Cultural ideas and expectations around time repeat themselves endlessly each day and become influential in how the built environment manifests over time. But too often, this dimension of time and speed is difficult to articulate architecturally. So we are going to walk around and explore the city together. Basically, the unit will be split in three parts: an introduction, an exploration part, and a proposal.
So the first part will have short readings that we'll discuss together as a whole group. And these materials are meant to serve as references to help you define your point of view in your design work.
During this time, you will be exposed to broader contexts around architecture. We are going to see how architecture is influenced by arts, technology, politics, environments, and vice versa. Based on our readings and your personal interests, you will produce a research hypothesis around the speed of the city and its relationship to the built environment. Following this, we will jump into explorations. This will be the fun part. Working in groups of 2 or 3 students, we will walk, observe, and document how people move through and use spaces, their behaviors, and how the built environment influences, and it is influenced by these behaviors. We will visit sites that are fast and slow, and identify transitional sites that are somewhere in between or have elements of both. You will have 2-3 days to wander and explore on your own or with your group.
There are many neighborhoods that can be interesting to explore, but for these next few days, we'll look at Uchiro and Chungno, which is a productive industrial zone by day and a sparse but interesting nightlife destination after hours. And you can observe how the speeds differ during the day and by night and weekday versus weekend. It's also adjacent to slower historical and natural sites, as well as high density fast business districts, which you can choose to incorporate into your project. And this area has also been historically a site of commerce and production. You can also explore other sites such as Yeonnam-dong, Hongdae, or Yongsan if your hypothesis compels you to be there.
Places like Dongdaemun and Hongdae, what we call fast places, come alive at night. Dongdaemun on the left is a kind of non-stop 24-hour zone, while at Hongdae on the right, the built environment itself changes rather quickly to keep up with new and newer trends.
Historic palaces and their gardens with their sparse and generous layout can be read as a physical manifestation of slowness and grace, frozen in time from a different era. On the right is another kind of slowness, an aligning of the body and mind as we walk slowly over the shallow steps through the trees. Our minds also gradually begin to calm. And there are also transitional sites that are either somewhere in between, like on the left, the new Hanok that is palimpsest onto a historical smaller urban fabric with dense and fast buildings just a stone's throw away. Or Mangrum on the right, which is a type of empty or slow space that is carved out of a vertical building, which is characteristic of a dense and fast urban context. And there are also Pulmon cafes where slowness and emptiness are created within a completely artificial environment, or Padamong resorts, which curiously brings the artificial back into the natural.
Quarantine Airbnbs are another form of manga to find slowness by distancing yourself from busy lives at home. And the ubiquitous PC Bang, perhaps once a slow site to pass time, has now become a training ground for professional gamer life, where you can even get meals delivered to your PC station. Each group can choose one of these sites for field research and documentation. At the end of each day, we will gather back together in the studio and we will analyze together and edit your findings so that we can redirect the explorations for the next day. We will borrow techniques from the Italian activist group Stalker. They use a method called transurbans, which is a critical and immersive exploration of the city through walking. We will also rely on the concept of psychogeography from the situationists, which basically looks at the relations between the behaviors and the built environment. We hope that by doing this, we will discover something new about the soul's temporal and experiential dimensions. We hope that we will map interstitial spaces that can give us a glimpse about the future of the city.
The idea of experiential mapping is not new, and in a way you can find precedent in earlier methods of mapping, like this Hanyangdo or map of Seoul from 1760, which shows a way of drawing maps from experience and interpretation, letting subjectivity override accuracy and acknowledging mapping as a subjective tool. And you can see in these two maps the differences in emphasis. The map on the left shows a city shaped by rivers, mountains, and symbolic civic buildings, versus the map on the right focused on efficiency and production, as the capitalist city began to dominate during the Japanese occupation of Seoul.
You will be asked to produce short videos documenting your field research with your smartphones as you move through and within the spaces of your interest. We will give you an introduction to filming techniques, including framing and perspective and choreography of scenes.
These are based on the idea of bodily movement through space and experiential perspectives, These two examples show how the Greek Acropolis and the Korean Buddhist temple Pusoksa were constructed based on the cinematic idea of procession and ambulation. But the reverse is also true, that cinematic sequences and compositions can be found in existing spaces. We won't go into too much detail for now, but the idea of the body as a vehicle for sensing, knowledge, and memory is closely in line with radical pedagogies like the Women's School of Planning and Architecture from the 1970s that question dominant methods and the prioritization of the abstract over intuition and firsthand knowledges. So you can see similar methods of on-the-ground research, including filming, discussions, and editing as a central part of their pedagogy.
We have also experimented with these methods before for our project in Harlem, New York, providing free Wi-Fi structures to underserved neighborhoods, which we will discuss tomorrow in our lecture. For the midterm, you will be asked to submit a short video of 1 to 3 minutes, which should be edited to present your critical position, together with a sketch of your architectural or urban intervention. As said before, we will provide you with a tutorial about montage storytelling, and this field research will serve as a basis for the last part of our unit.
For your proposals, your film can act as a generative tool for your intervention, as in Bernard Shumi's formal exercises, next slide, that are based on his analysis and interpretation of film stills. Or you can create a catalog of transitory, slow and fast spaces, which you architecturalize through drawing, as you see in Atelier Bauau's Made in Tokyo book, which documents the quotidian, not beautiful, not accepted, and in between typologies that have been generated by the city's forces.
Or you can create a short booklet like this one in the picture. This will combine your observations with text and perhaps also your proposal, resulting in a compelling narrative. The objectives of the unit are attuning to the city's chronotypes through an immersion into its urban fabric, discovering and witnessing urban spaces, conditions, and behaviors that often go unnoticed, registering spaces that are in transition, that anticipate the new chronotypes and uses of the space, and understanding the broader social context that create or support those spaces or conditions. Finally, you will propose a design interventions that facilitate, confront, or oppose those transitions.
So the first 2 days will be group reading, discussions, tutorials, and a site visit. And the third and fourth days are exploratory, where you'll observe and document your spaces of interest, which will result in a short video and sketch. And after the midterm, we'll analyze your observations and respond to them with a design proposal. We think that the gap between your observations and your architectural proposals will be a productive tension. And we hope that the final work will bring to the summer school an open question that you can explore further after the course.
Okay. So we look forward to exploring the city together with you. Thank you. Thank you also to the organizers to invite us. It's very nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, the mic.
Please stick to both mics. Yeah, you need both.
Hi, I'm Jae Ko, and this is Hijun Lee, and we are architect and architectural creative space in Seoul. So we are living in here, and we're running Unit 2 from last year. And Unit 2 is like really interested in the form of architecture. We love clarity and creativity in architecture, and which are really clear and bold ideas and physical existence, and something can be written and visible. We love production and like produce images and drawings. And last year we tried to focus on the shape of architecture under the topic a single room for 10,000 people. And Heejun will continue to explain this year's brief.
Hi, I'm Heejun, and this year, film that we picked is A Day in the Life of Kubo the Novelist. This is a Korean novel. I'll explain further later on. So, this year we're going to look at the ritual, more specifically the connection between architecture and the ritual. So, ritual encompasses, as you all know, religious events and traditions. And in it inevitably reflects society and social custom, culture, and the time. And also architecture reflects rituals and vice versa. So these images that I'm going to show you are the architectural images, arguably have been the epitome of how rituals can be translated into architecture. But these grand narratives and like gigantic images that architects have been providing are not what we are going to look at this year. Rituals also encompasses very insignificant activities like getting up in the morning and having coffee. And these casual rituals are what we want to look at this year. Sorry for those who can read Korean, is an excerpt from the novel A Day in the Life of Kubo the Novelist by Korean novelist Park Tae-won, who is maternal grandfather of Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite. And the excerpt demonstrates another normal day of the novelist, and it effectively shows the relationship between spatial settings and the ritual. For instance, here in the excerpt, Kubo talks to his mother, and it elaborates how the dimension and elements of architecture affects the conversation. Let me show you some examples. So these are the works from last year, Unit 2, which when we researched a big single space. But this year, we're going to focus more on composition and spatial settings, spatial elements. Talking about how spatial elements affect human activity or ritual. It could be sliding door or translucent glass, pedestal, handrail, threshold, doorknob or handle. The list goes on. So what we're going to look at is those layers and spatial elements, and also compositions. Last year, as we already mentioned several times, we researched a single huge space. More specifically, we researched an unbuilt projects. This year, in order to delve into the connection between ritual and architecture, we're going to look at
You need to be online.
spaces in the films. And directors have taken advantage of architecture, since architecture encompasses rituals and therefore society and time. Examples using architecture as a part of images recurs for so long. This is arguably the birth of deconstructivism back in 1920, and modernism by Jacques T, or more specifically, internationalism. And this is an example which Norman Foster have kept making reference for so long time. This is the production design of Ken Adam, Charlie Kaufman Center in New York, and architecture sometimes are translated into artworks and vice versa. And sometimes directors make architecture and architecture effects films back again. These are both by Wes Anderson. On the right hand side is the cafe designed by Wes Anderson in Milan. And it goes on, but all the examples focuses merely on the images, not the composition of very little spatial elements. Maybe this is the epitome of what we're gonna do this year. Of course, architecture is all about dimension and form, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus more on the layers, elements, connection, and composition that films portray. Don't Give Story by Yasujiro Ozu is maybe the very good example. But rather than looking at the films from other countries, we'll look chiefly into Korean films as the greater theme of the visiting school this year is K. And we think K means perpetual deformation. To help you understand better, I'll quickly go through a spatial composition in Old Boy. I believe that most of you have already watched this film. So this is a space where Odesu, the protagonist, got imprisoned for 15 years. He makes a small hole on the wall, and this little hole, through the little hole, he can connect it to the outside world. And this hole, even though it's very small, means very much to him. And this is a very key element in the space. And another little hole, which connects the room to the corridor. And this is how the corridor looks like. And after he got released and he searched the prison again, and he came back and he's torturing the director of the prison. And he ran all the way through the corridor back again, and he went into the elevator, went outside again, and he walks out of the building. So basically, what we did just now is we go through all the space of the building here, and we can make the diagram out of it. And there are other architectural or for example, this is film Deauville by Lars von Trier, and another Korean film by Zhang Jin. So we can make a drawing or images from the elements that we take out of from the films. And our final goal is simple. We're going to make a booklet after researching each film that you guys pick. And just like last year, we'll make one drawing and one image, one perspective image. So it's really simple. One research booklet, one drawing, one line drawing, and one perspective. We've already picked the films that you're going to research. If you have a better option, please suggest. Then we will also willing to go through the films that you're going to suggest.
There is like full brief already uploaded in Google Drive. So if you can access, like you can read a little bit more about our brief, and our time schedule will be following visiting school timetable, but I'm not sure, but there is like possibility to like visit all like some of Korean studio architecture studio fund. We're still organizing, and we're thinking to visit like AOA Architect and Kim Hyo-young studio, because those studios are a little bit sharing ideas with us. And I think that's it for Unit 2. Yeah, thank you.
That was unit 2. Share your screen on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to be here. And so my name is Wei Chen, and I go by Jimmy, so you just call me Jimmy. And my topic, so unit 3 is about reflection, information, and machine vision sampling. And so the idea is about using machine to collect, analyze, and reinterpret information to design architecture. And a little bit about my background, I have 2 years of work experience in Tokyo, Japan. And then before working in Japan, I was teaching in Boston and USD. And I also work in US and Taiwan. And my working experience in different cities just gave me interest about how the city culture can influence the way we design. And then, so my project starts from the first problem is how does a city influence the architecture style? And we will consider architecture as an object in the city context to discuss how a city environment changes the building form, color, and texture, and what is the role of architecture inside a city. And should architecture be an object that brings into context or an object that conveys a statement about the architect's vision? So our impression of a city is formed by very little elements in the city. So these two are two AI-generated images of the city. The one on the left side is Venice, Italy, and the one on the right side is Barcelona. But this image is being edited, is being reassembled, but you still can recognize this city as a Venice and Barcelona because of you are familiar with the texture, the pattern, the color from the city. So my question is like, how about Seoul? What kind of texture can represent Seoul? What kind of color can express the spirit of Seoul? And can Seoul still be recognized by the satellite images if it's been reassembled by AI? And then the topic, apophenia is a term from psychology, and then it's a description about the mental correction from the human brain. So humans tend to recognize the things they are familiar with, and then for other people without that kind of background information, those shape just like a simple graphic on the images. There's no other information can be extracted. So this is the example of using the idea of the apophenia effect. So you can recognize this as a human face because you are really familiar with the face. But if you really need to see the detail, you can see this is composed by very little different components, just like a city. Like the city can be seen as a whole, but actually if you really need to see every building is unique. They might share the same texture, same color, but the building form is the typology is a little bit different to measure all the function in the city. So, apophenia is a new word for me to rethink what can represent Seoul and how can we draw a connection between between the building and city, and we will discuss from the cultural aspect to reflect on architecture. So for me, the impression of Seoul is only from movie because this is my first time to be here, and so I can only understand the city through the movie. And these images are highly polished, highly edited by the director. So it's from his perspective of view to see the city. So I will ask the participants to create their own data set, own images about how they see a city. And then so in the end result, we will design a library building inside the city and with all the collect data set about the texture, color of soil or elements, and to become small components on the building to be a more representational object to express the spirits of soul. So the main program for this project will be the public library. The library is a place to collect information, to reflect culture and connect people in the city. So I would like to ask them to envision what would be the new type of library in the contemporary cultural context. Because now everything is kind of like digitalized, and how do we still need this kind of space in the city? And usually the library is like in every time period is like the most advanced technology to build, like to express the wills of the city. And then, so we will only use the open source free software. Most of work will be done in Blender, but there's a system requirement we can only run on Windows, and then there's other tutorial if we need, we can also use Unreal and right now to help on complete the project. And this workshop will split into 3 parts: site survey, AI image sampling, and then space generation. And here is a schedule. So the first half before midterm will be mainly just tutorial and lectures, and then just workshop. And then for the after midterm will mainly be just production to finish the project. So to be more specific, the first day will start with machine vision lecture to talk about a different way to see a city. Then we will build a Python file to scrape the images from Google to collect data set. So each person can choose their own preferred architecture style, and then also we will do a research on like code, what can represent soil, and then every student should have different kind of interest or direction to collect data set. And then we will go to the site to take a picture to document maybe the facade pattern or furniture, like urban furniture, just everything you can find in the city. So everyone has different data set. And this is like extract the information from the facade and then run style transfer to be a new pattern. You can deploy some of the geometry as a new map to find new form of architecture. And the second day will start from a Blender tutorial. I'll try to cover different ways of modeling, maybe more organic kind of building form or more systematic kind of node modeling. And then day 3 will start from introducing a character building lecture to discuss about fault finding and the implication of form in architecture. And follow up with a Blender plugin tutorial. Is a custom plugin I made. This plugin has a function to run image search and style transfer and texture mapping. So this is how it works. As you model, the AI will tell you what kind of what kind of building is related to your building form, and then you kind of can get inspiration from there, and then you can continue to change your model based on that. So in that process, you can really quick to get various options like as a messy model, and then so you can have a quick, very quick sketch about potential buildings on the site. And these are some like outcome from the previous quick workshop. So each model is made within 25 minutes by different students and with no vendor modeling experience. So can really quick to get some result. And so the deliverable for midterm will be a collection of images, like the data set of the city of Seoul, and then also the data set of the architecture precedent, and then a collection of the 3D messy model. So each one of students need to produce like 10 model, 10 options for the library. So we can have a lot of options you can choose. And then after midterm, we will discuss the role of library in the city in both history and current time. And then this part, we will design a space inside the messy. This will run based on the piece-to-piece neural network. So you can quickly to generate an interior program, and then you can test out the interior space, and then you can modify your interior space from there. And day 7 to 10 will manage just focus on production and test criteria to finalize the project. And then so for the final, I expect to have 3 kind of animation rendering to show interior, exterior, and then the overall building relationship with side and with all the images. Thank you so much.
Also, this unit is going to be assisted by Hyung-gyu Cho. Hyung-gyu, can you stand up maybe just to say hi? Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. That was Unit 3. Yeah, and if anybody from Zoom, if you don't see the page or something, yeah, if there is any problems through Zoom, just shout out because we can hear you.
All right, so Lloyd, are you ready?
Yes.
Can you, I think you need to speak a bit louder.
Is this okay? Let me get my headset.
Yeah, should be fine.
Can you try?
We say anything?
Speak something.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. I'll speak into the AirPods.
All right, cool. So hello, we are Unit 4. So I mean, we are Hanjun, Dongyun, and Roy. And so Roy is going to be participating through online anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna mic over to him to start over.
I'm just going to request the
Remote control.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be possible.
I mean, you can just
I'll
ask
just say,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Can you, yeah, well, okay. So, hi, everyone. So our unit is basically about re-diversifying architecture. So I'm just going to give you a brief kind of history of what we looked into and kind of like where we base ourselves on, and then explain what our unit is going to do. So we start from this year, we start from looking into the canon of architecture. So there's obviously the Architectura, which is by Trevis, and it was basically a treatise on architecture, a canonical approach, and an attempt to compile the discipline in a comprehensive whole. Next, please. And obviously there were other attempts to do similar things. So this was, for instance, like a more encyclopedic compilation of architecture. Like, and it often kind of like reinforced what existed within the built canon of architecture. Next, please. And there are others who kind of attempted to even narrate or build up strata of history and context onto the changes and that accumulated knowledge of architecture. Next, please. However, the simple kind of statement of this modern architecture questioned the way we utilize the accumulated architectural knowledge. Efficiency and optimization have become the most important determinant, in the design process that can often override the other design considerations. Next, please. With the invention of reinforced concrete, the ideology of maximum utility and productivity gave birth to the architecture that can be rapidly replicated without the need for much contextualization. Next. So these are basically different modes through which we created more efficiency and parameter-driven architectures. Next, please. And last year, we basically talked about how this gave birth to what we call typical architecture, which is something that can be replicated. That can be replicated and can be seen anywhere and is not untypical to see in any context. So this is actually a photography series by a Swiss photographer, and it kind of depicts 32 different bedrooms in 32 different cities. And you quickly realize that the bedrooms and even the outside start looking very similar. Next, please. And this is the point that we try to tackle. So as you can see from this slide, you have different cultural diversities that used to dictate architecture, which is now being streamlined into a singular point, which is more driven by efficiency and parameter. And from an evolutionary point of view, we're basically trying to re-diversify it and have it prepare basically for more various future scenarios. Next, please. So this is basically where we kind of insert ourselves. Next, please. And this is quite interestingly what we did last year. So last year we tried to merge different data sets acquired from different Hanok interiors, like Korean traditional housing units, with that of modern interiors. And this started creating really interesting juxtapositions of different possibilities that can basically manifest through using machine learning. And it basically gave us more ideas on how we can maybe utilize machine learning in design process and so on and so forth. Next, please. So that's basically another one. And the next one. So after such exploration, we came up with the synthesis, which basically is a bit of a cheeky twist of form ever follows function by Louis Sullivan. And that was form reflex function. So it wasn't that the forms weren't following or forms were like completely ignorant to functions that they're supposed to serve, but it somehow reflected the function whilst maintaining their cultural forms. Next, please. So this is, from this point of view, we are, okay, how can we actually use forms and functions and their relationship to create diversity? And we, next please. And we started looking into kind of four basic functions a house could serve. And those were, so these are functions that different architecture elements within the house could serve. And these were canopy, flooring, support, and opening, and how these might manifest in form. Next, please. So this is just like an example of what we could be doing. So if you look into, for instance, support, you have all these different types of pillars and columns that are used throughout different eras in Korea. And we are going to basically collect data of all different morphologies. So we call them functional morphologies because they're morphologies that reflect function, and then run them through 3D GAN, which is a machine learning process, and then have this generate basically functional morphologies that reflect how Korea has been reflecting certain functions into forms. Next, please. And yeah, that's so with these kind of functional morphologies reflecting those four functions that we outlined, we're going to try to manifest a design at the end. So you will have A, data collection, B, data processing, and then C, a whole design process. So you will come out of this unit with some sort of architectural manifestation. So I'll give the presentation to Dong-Yun, who will now talk about the technical side of how things will be done.
Okay. Thanks, Roy, for all the explanations. And then I'm just gonna go through the how we could achieve some certain goal using some certain the design technologies and the machine learning techniques. So we are mainly interested in some of the machine learning technique, especially the GAN, which is I think this is like pretty powerful. Not a tool, but designer tends to think that this is like the tool. So it has some kinds of the ability to learn some of the underlying the features. For example, like what kinds of the feature can consist of like the clothes or shoes. And then we could also expand these kinds of the concept to some of the architectural the discipline, for example, like what feature, what characteristics can consist of like some let's say the residential building. What's the common feature in it? So this is like pretty tricky like questions, and some of the problems we could not easily like answer, but the machine learning technique could help us answer or find some clue to answer these questions. So this is some of the example of like how some of the clothes or shoes could be like created continuously and infinitely using this technique. So as I said, it could be like extended to some of the architecture features, like some of the architecture elements, for example, a door in this case, and the left part is some kinds of the training set to teach the machine learning model, and then the right part is some example of the generated images, say the fake door. So the most interesting part for me is that these kinds of the technique can give us some of the new ability to remap some certain all these features into some of the new spaces called the latent space, and then all the features are converted into numeric values, so numeric value, so that we can just easily control them, and then all these features could be changed into all the continuous manner, so that all so all these discrete entities could be some of the continuous the morphology. Yeah, so this is some example of like how some of the residential and the church, some of the different typology could be transferred or the merged, or the what kinds of common feature they can share. And the basic concept could be also extended to the 3-dimensional, because most of the architecture students are interested in some more the 3D, not the 2D. So we just wanted to challenge some of these kinds of the topic. Yeah, so this is some of the similar example, like while the training this 3D GAN model, it learns some certain like the features of the chair, like what's the common feature, what's the chair in the like the form manner, form like aspect. So like there are like 4 different like some like the legs and some of the back and some of the arm. So it's a little like hard to exactly say, but I also think that you can also feel like these kinds of the features, characters, and also like chair could be like transferred to some of the architecture. So interesting part in here is we could also like find all these the intermediate stage, like half chair, half architecture, or something else. So this could be some of the intended result, like we could also we said that there are like 4 functions, and then students can like find what kinds of the features can create that kinds of the entity, the functions. So by like using this machine learning technique, we could also observe all the intermediate changes, and then also use the 2D GAN to signify to materialize all these textures on it. Yeah, so this is I just want to share some the previous year concept. The topic was the mutation. So we tried to merge some of the different architecture topics, like the traditional architecture, which was the modern architecture interior, and then the untypical architecture, which was the Hano, that is the Korean traditional architecture. And then we trained the machine learning model to make some of the mutation. And then this is some of the kinds of example, like what could be the intermediate stage of the Hano and the modern interior. And then it could be also like map onto some of this kind of the 2D visualization manner, and some of the collage. So Lloyd, could you want to say?
Yeah, so sorry. So basically, I think I briefly explained what we're going to do. So I think now everyone has like a better idea of how these morphologies could be, trained through machine learning. And yeah, just go to the next page, please. Yeah, and this will eventually. So I mean, this is just like an example of what could happen is that we're going to have numbers and numbers of different models of pillars and colors and supporting elements, and this will, and that it's not going to give that shape exactly, but it will give forms, functional morphologies of, you know, how Koreans reflect function into architectural element. And using that, next please. We will try to build an architectural project together in a singular format. So everyone's going to get the same kind of footprint and the drawing format, and then it will kind of like have a grid of different designs by different students. And obviously this is basically a representational piece of like a typical kind of like a housing unit, so to say. But obviously these kind of opening elements, flooring elements, and then canopy support elements will be of the products that came out of the machine learning process. Yeah.
To give you a little bit more clear idea, I mean, it's about just additional things. So this is going to be our schedule. So we just divided into 4 phases. Well, I mean, the one of them are just 2. So first 2 days, we're going to explain you about our concepts and what is going to be the research itself. And we're also going to produce our data as well. Well, I didn't write it down, but yeah. And then phase 2.1 is going to restart, like kind of tasting what is going to be the data research, and we're going to slightly start to move into the what is the machine learning, what is going to do, something like that. And then after mid-creep, we changed into the producing mode, which means like we're going to do the lots of the machine learning processes use it again. And in the end, yeah, like Lloyd explained, so we're going to combine some, like we're going to composite some of the elements, and then we're going to do some design, and we'll make the finals. And yeah, I mean, for just this is kind of additional information. Oh, what's this?
I added it just, yeah.
Okay.
It's
all right. So to give you a little bit more clear information, we're going to introduce ourselves. So
yeah, hi again. Yeah, I'm Donghyun. Recently graduated Harvard. And then I'm also like have some of the series, the architecture background as like you, but I just slightly changed myself the career to more the engineering the aspect. And then I think I have like pretty interesting some experiences in the design and some of the engineering part as well. So it's kind of like pretty interesting the 10-day workshop to taste some the design and the engineering aspect together.
And myself, Hanjun, is I'm actor designer based in London, and I'm also associated with Suminam Design. And and they also course tutor at AADRL. It's fine, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's me, and yeah, I'm also based on the computational design and generative design as well. And this is Roy.
So I'm Lloyd. I graduated at the University of Edinburgh and then the Architectural Association. And I'm not technically a very technical or computational kind of designer. I'm much more on the theoretical side, delving or focusing on the traditional kind of like the mediation between the traditional force of architecture and then the modern force of architecture, and how that can create harmony. So I've been working with Hanjun and Donghyun since last year, and I've kind of like also created my own initiative called Volume 64, which is about looking at how we perceive architecture in a completely different manner. So we kind of do lots of experimentations with typologies and how we think about architecture. Yeah. And that's it.
All right, yeah, that's it. Thank
It's
you.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
All right, so that was all 4 units, and now you guys have a hint of who are the teachers and what do they do. But I wanna also say that tomorrow, you see this 2 unit talk. That's where we will have a little bit deeper introduction to the work of each tutors. Yeah, and it's a chance to it's a chance to get to know tutors' work a little bit more. Yeah, but regardless, now you will have to make your choice. Yeah, and we will June will introduce you the process. But so now it's 11:36, and we will have a free coffee and Q&A session, and you can just maybe walk to any tutor and talk to them. And yeah, we are that's June. We are going to have a lunch break at 12. Let's say, shall we say 12? Yeah. And you have to send us your choice, let's say before 12:15. Shall we do that? Yeah. So our tutors will need break. So if you have questions, please ask them before 12. Yeah. And make your choice and submit. June will introduce you how to submit. You have to make your choice first choice, second choice, and third choice. And then you have to send this to us before you go for lunch break. And then you will have to come back here by 1 o'clock. And then we will have your distributed units ready.
Short interview.
Mhm.
Optional, yeah.
Yeah.
We won't have interview for everyone, but I think the tutors will sit in their unit spaces, and if needed, you can probably come to the each unit space, have a very brief interview, and then we'll decide your unit. This is the QR code that you can go onto the Google survey that put your names and your first, second, and third choice. And sometimes after submission, students change their mind. So if there are any, if for example, if 8 students submit the 2, then we'll consider the later one. Okay, so in case you change your mind, it's okay, submit it again just before the deadline, which is at 12:15. So 네? 코드가 안 돼요? 다시 해드릴게요. 네.
이메일로 폼을 보낼까?
아니, Zoom 링크가 있는데. Okay, I'll show the Zoom link again.
Also,
In the Zoom, no longer accepting this. Oh, okay, yeah. I'll just I just need to click one. Yeah, don't worry. Start in 5 minutes, okay? And before do that, all the tutors will hang around here for like 10-20 minutes.
yeah.
So you can probably come in and talk to them if you need to ask anything. Okay. Yep.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. We do have the ID and password for the Wi-Fi in the studio space. Here at the moment.
So I think if you are having problem, you can come to me and tell me your choice. Yeah, shall we do that?
And
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
problem, maybe you can come and I can just share the hotspot.
Yeah.
No, I think this works. If you, in this room, if you go to the setting and then search Wi-Fi called 419. The password is A419A419. The alphabet A is the lowercase. Does that work?
And we are also, we are having all these public meetings and lectures here, but you will be working in studio space upstairs. So you will be directed to that space after you come back from lunch break. All right? Yeah, so you will have internet there. So the internet for this room, you can use this one. All right, so unless everything else, I will see you back here at 1 o'clock. Okay? And before 12:15, you need to make your choice and send this form to us.
Sorry.